That's the first words that come out every bloody time we start. I need to... Oh, no we're not. Let me refresh. I might have just gone into it too.
I'm seeing it as live.
There we go. Yeah, now it's live.
There you go. Got my notification on my phone.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yep.
I need to... No, first thing I've got to do is turn the
Chat box on.
audio down. Bring the chat box. I haven't actually... Oh, God, I haven't even set that bit up yet. Crap
You
a
were just
doodle.
literally talking. It's always the way.
What?
I hadn't thought about that bit yet. And then it's just, it's always the first thing. Straight people like, we're live. Oh, chat box.
Every week.
Yeah,
Right.
I know. Hang on.
At least we're consistent.
Well,
That is
on
true.
this one, we haven't actually... I can't even remember what... Oh, no, what I'll do. I'll just do it like a screen capture kind of thing. Where's it gone? Display capture. Sorry, everybody's going to see some weird stuff happening now.
Mate, I look in the mirror every morning. That's weird enough.
Ah, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Or is it? No, there it is there.
Are
Sorry.
you sure it's that one?
Yep, there it is right there. Hey, Carl, how are you, mate?
Carl is in.
Carl is in the building.
And Mark is as well.
I need to start having sounds when people join now. You can press it.
Boing.
Hang on, I've got to have to work out how to...
I've got some inappropriate sounds. We found out last week. No. Actually, that was the last week's live, wasn't it, Gary? Where I put that sound on just before we left, and it was like, oh, I didn't mean that.
I don't know what you're
I
talking
didn't
about.
even post that, so I don't even know how that happened.
Sorry, guys, we're on a different screen tonight, so
We're on lots of different screens.
I'm having troubles getting the
Shame
writing.
it's not transparent. Not that you can really change that.
If I do that and then zoom in and drag it out, that should make the writing bigger so we can read it. Luckily, you haven't put the link up yet, have you?
Yeah, I have.
Oh shit! I said wait till we got everything set
Because you
up.
said we're all good.
No, I didn't.
And people are already joining already. We had 7 people in here watching us look like
Hang on, where are
7
we?
people. Carl, what is new in the world of conspiracies? Is there new ones? I'm sure there is, to do with this whole Hamas and Lebanon.
That would be
stuff.
good if I could actually read it. Now it's all gone black.
Well, here's the thing, Gary. If you've already got it open as well on another screen, you can read it at the same time.
Yeah, I know, but you're not going to see it on the... I wonder if I can change the writing, because that looks cool. Hang on.
Black.
Where are we? Blending mode.
Quack.
How are we going, Mark? Oh, James is in the chat.
Say hello.
James is also on screen.
He's green on screen.
He's got a makeup palette, so I can make myself more pretty.
And guys, you see upgraded? Have my cap?
Yeah, I've got mine covering my long grey hair.
I was hoping it would stop some of the reflection in my glasses, but yeah.
Sorry, we're just about there. It's just me pushing the wrong buttons. We actually have a good one tonight.
The Last Melon. That is a unique name.
It is very unique. Unique?
Unique is something different, mate.
Yeah,
No,
that's you don't want to be a eunuch.
No.
No.
I think we are just going to leave it like that, because what will happen is
the community guidelines.
once
They
that,
go that way.
grey bit at the top disappears, then it'll all be good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So how is everybody?
We're good.
I was just about to move
Doing
my
good.
chat window, but then I realised it would stuff everything up. So,
Ice Age reference. I thought it was like the last dandelion of the season.
what?
It's all right. Everyone else understand.
Nah, I'm passing on that one too.
You've not watched Ice Age?
Oh,
No.
not in a million years.
Yeah.
My kids are
Yeah,
all
well,
grown up.
Not recently.
Where the sloth picks up the
I don't
dandelion.
even care about the sloth.
Yes.
I think we're already having issues with
Mark is
time
saying it looks
delays.
good.
Hey,
Mark is saying it looks good.
that's
How's
good.
it?
Now that Mark said it looks good, I'm happy.
Question is, no, there's no question. I look good.
That's debatable.
That was the longest silence in history. That
So,
we thought we would test it up by actually having 4 people in tonight, so we'll see how it goes and if it works out well. Because what we want to do, you guys that are always in listening, we would love it if some of you wanted to come in and actually be part of the show. So that is the plan moving forward. Eventually, anyway. My screen is completely different tonight for some reason.
Mark, how have you been? What's new and interesting?
We've got 6 people in at the moment.
We do, and we're all looking at each other like,
No, well, a couple of minutes, and it's the usual thing. So I was just going to say we'll wait until 10 past, but we were a couple of minutes late getting everything set up. So
It's 11 past now. Lucky, hey.
in a couple of minutes we'll kickstart the show proper, and then we'll get into the subject matter, because you all know that when we talk for an hour, it always goes over anyway.
When
Yeah.
Fernando last messaged me, he said he will be tuning in, but he is also going on an investigation. Lucky for him.
Speaking of which, we've got our big investigation coming up soon, and I'm hoping we can actually do a live cross from there.
I don't think that's possible. It's been asked.
Oh, has it?
And we are allowed to take footage, but no
Live streams.
live streams from that's the best of my knowledge.
Yep. Well, we have to
I'll
respect
be
that.
at work, fortunately.
You got to make the monies.
So if anybody doesn't know who everybody else that's in the chat, obviously you got Jeremy and myself, and then you got James down the bottom, and you've got Jay down the bottom.
Well, Jay is a face that people would have seen.
People who've been around for a while remember Jay from the TPB days. So
Not a crook.
yeah, is everybody? I'm doing okay. Cheers, Jeremy. Oh,
Usual grind of life.
I thought Carl was talking about me for a sec when he turned around and goes, Gaza, Israel is a cycle. Yeah, I know. But for a sec there. I was
I
gonna say
can English.
So, all right, is everybody ready to get started?
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
ready.
All right, what about everybody in chat? You all ready for us to get going? Because we're going to go to a blank screen for a minute or two. I should have just said that the audio was live then, so when the music was on and somebody burped, it came across our title music.
Wasn't me.
Well, welcome everybody to our usual Friday night bit of fun. So we are talking tonight about a bit of history, really. So let me take you back. Now we go back to the around November 1966, and out in the Midwest areas there.
West Virginia.
Yeah. Don't give shit away.
I would have said almost heaven.
Yeah, or maybe not. But this story actually starts off in a graveyard of all places. Now, there were these 5 graveyard workers that were hard at work digging graves and things like that. And then what happened was they saw this man basically fly out of a tree. Massive, tall man with big wings. And they watched him for over a minute. And this man, all dark, started to swoop all of these guys. And they actually had to duck to get out of the way before it took off. So it was a minute-long investigation. Now, that was the first ever sighting that we know of about this thing that matches current descriptions anyway. And then it cuts maybe to about a week, 2 weeks later, maybe not even that. And there was this man, he was at home watching TV like he would normally be doing, and he heard his dog barking, and he went to the window to look outside, and he saw what he describes as 2 big red lights in a tree looking at him. And he instantly got the fears up him, and he sort of walked to the door. And as he opened the door, he realized that these 2 big red lights were actually big red eyes. And this thing then just let out an almighty, unearthly screech and leapt into the sky, flying, to which his dog, what was his name? The dog's name was Bandit, and he was a German Shepherd. He went chasing this thing, and unfortunately was never seen again. Now, he reported it the next day, and people thought he was crazy. But then, I think it was 2 days after that, this is where you're really going to know what we're talking about if you haven't already put it in there. These 2 couples were in a car. They'd been out on a double date, and they were driving back through the edge of the TNT area. Now, what this was back in the Second World War, 1942-43, when they were making munitions and everything for the war effort, they built these, what are described as like giant igloo-type buildings, concrete igloo-type buildings, where they stored all the explosives and things like that. And then when the war ended, it became derelict, and it ended up getting handed over to like the National Trust, and it turned into a national park. So it's still known as the TNT area, and that is fairly important to this story because this is where a lot of this stuff centers around now. This couple, well, he drove a 1957 Chevy, one of the guys, and the 4 of them were in there, and they were driving along, and they saw taillights up ahead, and they thought that was strange because they hadn't seen anybody else on the road before that. And as they got closer and closer, they realized that these taillights were too high to be a car and too close together, because they thought it was way off in the distance. But it turns out there was this big, dark, what they described as a hooded, cloaked creature, not hooded, a cloaked creature with glowing red eyes, and at its feet was a dog. And it is believed that it was the dog that belonged to this guy Neil Partridge, who reported his dog missing when it chased this thing before. Now, as they got close enough to see it, they panicked and they started to run. And what happened? Run in the car. And what happened? This thing let out again this almighty screech, and what was to them appeared to be a cloak was actually giant wings, and they reckon it was a good 10-12 feet across, these wings. And then it launched itself in the air, and it kept swooping at them. And there's actual physical marks on this car where I can only describe them as talons scratched at it, and there is physical evidence, and there are photos there if you want to go looking for them. And they absolutely freaked out, and they actually approached speeds of 100 miles an hour, not kilometers an hour, miles an hour. So you're talking 160 kilometers an hour, and this thing was keeping up with them. So that automatically takes out most birds and things like that, because there's a lot of reports that it's one of these giant cranes and things like that. But what we're talking about, if you haven't already figured that out, is the Mothman. And over the next few months, it really ramps up with a lot of sightings. And I'm just going to go through it all quickly, and then we can get right into the whole discussion afterwards. And from there, you so there were several sightings, sort of November, early December through 1966. It all came to a head in December. What was it? December the 15th, I think it was, something like that. When the Silver Bridge that goes across the Ohio River collapsed, and I think it was something like 46 people died. And before that, this Mothman was actually sighted on the top of the bridge. Now, analysis of the wreckage of the bridge when they've gone through it says that something was actually corroded and snapped, but they couldn't describe it. It didn't seem natural. But once this one, it was like a linchpin, like a keystone. Once that went, everything else fell apart, and that's what caused the bridge to collapse. So the question is, did Mothman cause the bridge to collapse, or is he a harbinger of death? So when you see him, then you know something is coming. Now, to add to that story, he was sighted in Chernobyl not long before Reactor 4 went. And there is, if you have a look, there is actual photos of him around the World Trade Center only days before 9/11. So the fact that he is being seen at these places before these things happen, and then once these things happen, you don't see him again. Not until the next one. But in 2017, he was sighted somewhere again. I can't remember the details on that one. I just saw it on one story. And I don't know if anything happened after that, but yeah, it's a pretty freaky old story. And obviously, a writer got hold of it and wrote the book, The Mothman Prophecies, which ended up becoming a film. From memory, I think Richard Gere was in it, or somebody like that. And it is one of the biggest, I suppose, monster things from America. So,
Cryptid.
What do you want to go with that?
Just before we do get into it,
yeah,
I like Carl's comment. This is Gary, your slug, not Gaza. That's a name I haven't heard for a long time.
No. Yeah.
But so just pushing back onto the bridge that had collapsed in 67 December. So it was 44 bodies, 46 lives, and 44 bodies were recovered. The only two that weren't recovered was Kathy Brius and Maxine Turner.
Yeah.
There's a full list of names, but with the Mothman, they're actually saying that instead of rather using the date, they call it the Mothman math. Because supposedly there's a formula between, or they've tried to pin out a formula between dates and maths for the Mothman.
Yeah.
Which was really weird. As they're saying, after that bridge collapse, exactly 13 months prior to the Silver Bridge collapse on December the 15th, 26 months later, 13 times 2, which Mary Hire died on February 15th at 1970, age of 54, after a 4-week illness. Hire was at the Point Pleasant correspondence for the Athens, Ohio newspaper Messenger. During the 1960s, investigations came to a close friend of John A. Keel, and her husband, Scotty, had died in December 1st, 1968. So somehow those dates actually work back in correlation with adding numbers to make that, or timesing numbers, multiplying numbers to make that work to fit in with dates. There's several cases of this that have lined up.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and it hurts your brain thinking about it.
Hang on, I'm gonna make one little quick change to this. Keep going on, don't worry about me.
In 19... Sorry, was that Jay?
The bridge that in West Virginia that collapsed, locals said they saw it one way, then twist back up, and then it collapsed.
Yep.
So, and they couldn't figure it out. They reckon it's the Mothman is a bad omen. When he's seen, bad things happen later. People in West Virginia are very superstitious of it, and Most reports in West Virginia, he's about 7 foot tall with a wingspan of 20 feet, with the bright red eyes and has a nose with holes like we have. But yeah, he's a very strange looking creature apparently.
And so it's a harbour as well, because earlier in the whole classification of the Mothman, they actually tried to pass it off as an owl. But look, I've never seen an owl that's 7 foot tall.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You do get some pretty big owls and things like that, but and there's one specific owl which it's got more blood cells or whatever it is in the back of its eye, so its eyes shine very, very, very red. The eye shine, and if you actually look at some of the photos of this thing, you could easily mistake it for the Mothman. When you look at some of these pictures of the Mothman, they are very similar, but the size is the big issue, because these things don't grow to more than about 40 centimeters in height max, so that's nowhere near 7 foot, which is, as Jay was saying, that's where they saying this thing's up around that 7 foot mark, so that's putting it well beyond. I mean, they talk about it being one of these cranes, one of these birds, and they say that this particular crane has big red plumes around its eyes. Now, the difference here is we're talking eye shine at night, but when I say eye shine at night, eye shine is usually when somebody shines a torch and you get the reflection off the back of the inside of the eye. These things are self-illuminating, because even without any illumination, the eyes are still glowing. So they're self-illuminated, which, again, I don't know any creature that can self-illuminate its eyes bright red.
Well, there's plenty of creatures around where I live.
So, to do with the sightings of the Mothman and research done into it, Baker and Keel were actually looking into the Mothman in 1996. They were investigating the Mothman near Point Pleasant, and later had found a note on his windscreen of his car with a message reading, "Abandon your research or you'll regret it. You have been warned." Now, over that Labor Day in 1968, Baker held a Mothman convention in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The displeased Keel, and after Keel wrote to Barker about it on the 15th of March 1969, they had a big split and a rift developed between them that never healed.
Yeah.
So,
now
as you will.
I watched some videos over this. Oh, I've been looking into this for a long, long time, and I saw one actually the other day where this lady went into the TNT area. She actually had a guide he lived there all of his life, and he was there when the bridge collapsed and everything, and he went through those Mothman sightings, but he was only a young child at the time. And he said the thing about Point Pleasant is, he said, if you haven't seen it, you are 100% guaranteed you know somebody that has seen it, and these are all people that you would trust with your life, so they, just based on that, automatically nearly all believe it, which means it's ingrained in there. In fact, they actually put a statue in the high street of the town of the Mothman, and you can actually have a look at that and take your photo with it and stuff like that if you ever get over there. But in this video that I was watching, she actually had this guy take her out to the TNT area, which is, they said there's lots of tunnels underground. Obviously there's a lot of these different buildings they describe as igloos, which are just concrete bunkers really. And they talked about some contamination of the water, where the water actually has started coming out red. And I don't know then if this thing is some sort of a mutated creature. And she said they actually went into a couple of these bunkers and things, and it was pitch black, and she said it was as creepy as anything.
So could those red eyes being self-illuminating, could people get confused with the Min lights with those?
Well, the Min lights usually aren't red.
Well, no, I haven't seen them red myself. I've seen the Min lights, but
yeah,
I thought maybe there could be some sort of comparison there.
Well, like I said, that family at the start, they actually, or not the family, the two couples, they actually thought they were just following a car in the distance. It looked like taillights. Now, usually Min lights, you feel like you've got a car behind you in the background, so that would make the lights sort of a white sort of colour. So I suppose you could say that, but we should actually do a show on the Min Min lights at some point.
That we should. I've had experiences myself with that.
Indeed.
The chat is very, very quiet tonight.
It is, Carl. I like it. Mathematics.
Yeah, that's
Works.
great.
That works great.
So you got to ask yourself, where does he go between all these sightings?
He
You know.
has Bigfoot.
Yeah. So like to go from from West Virginia to say New York, for example, with the trade tower disaster, you would think if he was traveling, like flying, him or her for that matter, would be flying, someone would spot it. But then we're talking about, is he using portals to get around? Is he got some underground cave system that he's aware of that no one else is? How does he get such great distances?
Who's to say that he doesn't have the speed and people are like it's a UFO? We don't know what it is. We've seen it, but what is it?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not to say that he only flies
It's
at
cool.
night, and if he goes high enough at night time, nobody's going to see him anyway. And it's not like from Point Pleasant to the World Trade Center happened overnight. You know, there was a few years between the two.
No, that's right. So where does he spend?
He-
where does he spend his time in between?
But that's not the thing, right? He gets sighted all over the world.
Yeah.
So
Not-
the questions are, like you said, how does he get from place to place? Why is he traveling to these places? How is he knowing that these things are going to happen? And are they all the same thing, or are they more individual creatures than just the one?
Well, you want to talk about
Yeah.
extras? You look at the Jersey Devil.
Yep.
Similar sort of characteristics, right?
Similar.
Could that have been the Mothman, but they called it the Jersey Devil because it happened in Jersey?
No, I would. See, that it's sort of a 50-50 crossover between
Yeah.
like a Sasquatch and a Mothman type situation for the Jersey Devil. And again, we could do a
But
whole,
the Jersey Devil still flies, so
well,
has the
the
red eyes.
the reports, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not out of the question because nobody understands these things.
that's right. That's why we do this stuff, so we can talk about it, explore things, right?
Yeah. Jay's being quiet.
Very.
I'm just taking things in and thinking about things before I speak.
They talk about animals that have been murdered and, well, killed. Is that his main source of food? Does he only feed off animals? Has
A
there
lot of
been
that
any
was
like
blamed
human
on Chupacabra.
Oh, try not to talk over each other.
Sorry.
My bad.
No,
That's
go on.
a good question, Carl. Is there more than one?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I just said. I just said, is there more than one creature? And who's not to know that there isn't a whole, not just a family of them, but a whole civilization of them?
It could be like the shopping center Santa Clauses. It's just the Mothmen.
The same could be for the lizard people, right? We
Well,
don't know.
Well, you've had people dress up as a Bigfoot and try and go making their rounds. Who's to say that people aren't doing it as a Mothman trying to cause havoc and mayhem?
Because they can't fly.
Today's technology.
Not silently, anyway.
No.
I know there was, if you ever watch that old TV show Fact or Fate, and if you haven't seen it, it's definitely one worth looking into. It's a really good show. And what they do is they will, at the start of each show, they will look on YouTube for like viral videos on paranormal or different encounters. And like, because we're talking about the Mothman, there might be some Mothman type videos. And what they will do is they will pick a couple of them and then they will try to firstly go out and interview the people who did it and look at the actual camera and the locations. And then what they do is they try and reproduce it and see if it could easily be faked. And then from there, they will turn around and say, well, was it faked, or was it too hard to be faked, or was there something genuine we couldn't do it? And that's the whole premise of this show. It's one of the first ones that Ben Hansen was in, and he said he's going to come on the show at some point, so that'll be interesting to talk to him about some of the cases that they've been involved with. But more often than not, while they say you could possibly fake some of these things, the technology and the money involved is beyond most normal people to actually do that sort of thing. So it leaves it open to what did they actually capture. So, and a lot of people, like you were saying about when Jeremy said things can be done, you know, yeah, you can hang a couple of red lights from a drone and take that up there, but again, if you're seeing it at close range, you're going to hear a drone, you know what I mean? You're not going to get the same effect of the wings and stuff like that. And then by the time you put that sort of mass in for that, specifically at that sort of size, a drone's not going to keep it up unless you've got a massive drone to do it. And if you've got a massive drone to do it, it's going to sound like a bloody helicopter above it. So, and if you don't have that sound, you know what I mean? You start to isolate, and that's what this show's all about, is isolating certain factors to say, well, what was it they actually were... yeah, exactly. And it's a really good show. If you've not seen it, it's worth looking into. It's an old one, but a good one.
So what classification would we use for it? Would it be under a cryptoid? Would it be under a demon?
No, cryptid. Cryptid.
So,
Demon's never been in our realm as such, whereas a cryptid...
Never been lost.
Yeah, a cryptid is actually... well, in this case, with this Neil Partridge and his dog Bandit, the dog disappeared, and then those couples that were driving along saw a dog at the feet of this thing. So the fact that it's killed something, that puts it solidly in our world. So it was it's a cryptid. It's a cryptid. It's not a supernatural. Well, it is supernatural, but it's physical.
what if the Mothman is actually trying to save people and people just haven't got that idea yet? They think that the Mothman's bringing only bad luck.
Well, you know.
Some people think that it is too. Are they here to hurt or help?
Yeah, because there was... he had an appearance in Germany in 1978, where a group of miners in Friedberg in Germany came face to face with an object blocking an entrance to a mine that appeared to be headless and had glowing red eyes on its chest.
Yeah.
They initially believed it was a man wearing a trench coat, but they soon realised it was a set of enormous black wings that had spread out. The miners remained at the mine entrance, dumbfounded and staring at the creature, until it let out a spine-tingling screech that called them to rush outside. Literally later, after that shriek had happened, the entrance of the mine collapsed.
And
they would have been dead if they had gone in.
And Kim, the name of the show is Fact or Faked, Paranormal Case Files. So if you look up Fact or Faked, Ben Hansen, JL, that they're both in it. So you'll find it, and you'll find it on YouTube as well. Some of the individual stories on YouTube. So it's a good show. It's a really good show. I think I've got a couple of seasons of it on me in my collection. But yeah,
they're definitely well worth a watch.
Oh, they are. I mean, they go into all sorts. You see, they've got alien things, they've got werewolf type things, they've got witches, paranormal stuff, ghosts. They do a lot of paranormal investigations, and they've actually found some places to go, no, they're definitely haunted. So it is a really good show. It is a really, really, really good show, but sometimes they will debunk something that you go, oh, I wish it was real, but it's not. So, no. But yeah, I keep saying a lot tonight. But this Mothman, he's I don't know.
See,
what do you think he is? What do you think he is, or where do you think he comes from?
There's the thing as well. Like, several people have reported sightings, and they've actually had days after that followed. People have reported these sightings where the men in black have warned them to keep their stories to themselves.
Yep.
Like, that's just
There's
a big red flag.
And
there's also been people that have had mental issues after seeing it and stuff like that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually think that Neil Partridge, the guy who lost his dog, I think he's one of these people that has suffered. And like I said, you know, my history with what I saw, I'm not changing the subject or anything like that, but that was had such a profound effect on me that it changed my entire life to the point where this is what I'm doing now. You know, this is what I've been researching for a long time. I'm not going to mention the years, but a long time, and leads to this podcast and everything that we do. So that was just something I experienced. To actually witness something like that and have your dog go missing only to assume that this thing has killed it, that has really got to affect you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know where I go with that.
it. Sorry.
No, go on.
All right, so we talk about the first sighting was in 1966, right? Let's look at the first nuclear test explosion, which happened in 1945. So if what's that, 21 years difference?
Yeah.
21 years? So that would put them in, if it was a mutation of a human, that would give it years to grow up, to develop what it is, right? People started seeing it in 1966 as a fully grown 7-foot beast. We'll just say beast.
Yep.
We don't lack of terminology. So could it have coincided with that first nuclear test where they weren't necessarily too super careful about who was around when it happened?
It sounds like the precursor to Godzilla.
Not at all.
No,
Yeah,
sorry
pretty
to
much. Right?
Sorry to put a dampener there, James. But in early January 1926, reports and sightings of a figure resembling the Mothman flooded a region in southeast China. Menacing figures known to the locals they called the Man Dragon. There was a 40 billion gallon flood that struck nearby farming villages, bringing disaster, and 15,000 people died from the dam's collapse.
Yeah.
Sorry to throw a spanner in there.
No,
That's all right.
that's what we're here to talk about, because, like I said, we only know the reports of the Mothman as we know it, the talks since 1966. But you all know it, that when you go back through history, a lot of things show up that could easily be the same thing, but the terminology is different, so it gets missed when you're talking about the Mothman. And what you're talking about there could definitely fall under that category.
I like the name better.
What, the Mothman? Or the
Chinese
Dragon
name
Man, or
for
whatever
it.
it is.
Oh, sounds way cooler. Man
Man
Dragon.
Dragon.
Well, we're not going to go there, but
It sounds scarier than Mothman.
It
Yeah,
has
I
many
know.
different names too.
but if you witness
You've got
it,
Bigfoot. You've got Yowie. You've got in Buri Aboriginal, it's called a gorge. In Noongar Aboriginality, it's called Wadachi. So, like, this thing could have like 20 different names, like Bigfoot does.
Yep.
Worldwide.
Yep. And one of the big things that when people describe the Mothman, they don't delineate any facial features. They said you can't differentiate the head from the body. It's those big red eyes, and that's part of what makes it moth-like, I guess, and that's where they sort of got the name for it from. But the big thing is, lots of people have gone into that TNT area to try and hunt this thing down, and you take the Mothman out of it, it is still a very creepy, and reports say a very haunted location. So you add that a portal there somewhere,
All that down. How far from ley lines is it? Or is it on the ley line?
I don't know the ley lines through that area. I have to look into
That's
that.
another thing too. Yeah.
I suppose that's like a lot of our episodes. It comes back to things like this with ley lines, and it pops up a lot in the past episodes.
Well, when you think about it, anything paranormal, anything supernatural, anything weird usually happens around ley lines. Now, everybody knows that a ley line is the basic energy pathways of the planet. It's like its veins, the blood of Earth is running through these areas, and that's what's creating these energies. And especially when you get nexus points where there are intersections of especially more than 2 or 3 at once, there's going to be a lot of energy flowing through there, which can help spirits or anything else that needs energy to manifest to actually pop into our dimension, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's Something. God, everybody's gone dead quiet.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying
no,
to live in the
We're all doing our little bit of searching for stuff.
Yeah, no, I've just pulled up a map then of the ley lines or near the ley lines from Mount Pleasant.
Yeah. Anything?
Yes. So where Mount Pleasant Barrow is just south, or just west of the Whitmore Barrow, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines that come into it.
Yeah.
They also have magnetic and gravity anomalies in West Virginia as well.
Well, that's usually what happens when you've got portals and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That's why I think when ley lines intersect, I think they're portals. That's my personal opinion.
I don't think they're actually portals, but what I do believe is that the energy there is enough to power a portal. If they wanted to create one there or whatever, I think some are naturally forming, which one would suggest, as Jay was saying, they would form at these points of intersecting ley lines. But if you want to artificially create a portal, you need the energy to do it. And if you can use the natural energy of the earth to do it, then it's less that you've got to manufacture to make it happen.
Yeah.
So definitely. And it's like you talk about making these comparisons to Bigfoot and things like that, how it's almost impossible to find photos or video or come across one, but they do turn up from time to time. Now, maybe it is that they are interdimensional beings, and that maybe the Mothman and the Jersey Devil and the Bigfoot all come from a very similar kind of place, and they just pop through and then disappear back when they work it out. But what I find weird is when they do come through, especially Mothman, when he does come through, something always happens which is negative, whether it be 9/11 and you got Chernobyl. If you actually look up some of these photos, you'll find some of these photos on the
The
internet.
photos don't look nice.
Hey,
They don't look nice.
have you seen the photo of him near the World Trade Center?
No, I haven't looked up that one yet. No.
If you
I
look,
think I did.
if you look
think I
up the
did.
Mothman photo World Trade Center, he's actually flying around, and it's got to be way too big to be a bird, and it's like what they say. It's a very unusual shape, very distinctive. So. No, I'm being quiet to give everybody else a chance because I realise I've been yabbering.
I'm just trying to find a little bit more on these ley lines across the area in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So does anybody know if there's a catalogue of where he's been seen? And obviously we know West Virginia, we know the trade towers, New York, and China now,
And Chernobyl.
and Chernobyl. Is there any,
Well, there are reports that he was seen around Bali before the earthquake and the tidal wave. Where else was there? I think he was seen near Fukushima. Now, I don't know when these things happen if people are putting two together and saying, I think that was the Mothman, or whether he was actually witnessed prior to these things happening. It's hard to say, and it's like all things you talk about, again, without changing the subject, you talk about Nostradamus and some of his quatrains, and to say, yeah, but you can make his things fit any kind of scenario if you want to do it that way. And that is the case with just about everything. You can make a story fit your narrative. So it's easy to say the Mothman's there, but when they can produce photos of the World Trade Center, he was there while the World Trade Center was still standing. And then within a week or two, down she went, or down they went. So that then puts it definitely that it's not something that's made up after the fact. It was actually witnessed prior to. So that then puts you back to this. I don't know. Is he?
Same with the Brits.
Is he a harbinger of death? Is he trying to warn people of impending doom? Or is he creating impending doom, or is he some sort of a time traveling humanoid from the future coming back to witness some of these major catastrophes happen? Because he always disappears just after they've happened. That takes us in a completely different segue. That does.
So look, on lighter news of the situation, they do have a Mothman festival as well.
They do, and one of the things that they said is they're happy to do that because it brings in a lot of people. And I think they said when the festival happens, it brings in like over $2 million into the local economy, which is enough for over that short period of time. It's more than what that place makes in an entire year. So it's a good majority of their town finances, coming from that one thing. So
then when you do things like that, is it real or is it something that the town's made up to make money? We'll look at it that way too.
Yeah, but
it's been seen in other places over the world and America. That's
been mentioned before about was it manufactured, but some of these stories, and when somebody has been psychologically traumatized by an event, it's not something that's just been made up. You know what I mean? And then you can't deny when there's photographic evidence of him being over the World Trade Center, being seen around not Fukushima. He was seen there, but I'm thinking specifically of Chernobyl because he was. There were photos near reactor 4. Yeah. So I haven't seen photos from Fukushima, but I've heard stories that he's there. And again, a lot of stories, as Jay was saying, could be hearsay, but when you see photographic evidence, I guess you can always think, okay, photos can be faked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only reason I said that is because there are people out there that are complete skeptics, and they will ask that question.
Of course. You know as much as everybody else that you have to be skeptical until obviously you've proven that something is real, or you've at least exhausted every other possibility before you go there. It's the same. It's the same with paranormal investigation. You've got to discount every single thing before you can start really going down the paranormal path.
Well, that's how I got into the paranormal. If you remember the night we met down at the cemetery in Rockingham, 11, near 12 years ago, I was a half skeptic, half believer in the paranormal. And I was just down there taking photos for my own amusement sort of thing. And that was how I met you guys. And since I've been with you guys, you couldn't change my mind. I'm a firm believer.
Yeah. We've seen some things. Now, I wouldn't mind doing some kind of a cryptid hunt, but again, it's not going to be a Mothman type thing. But God, can you imagine if we were in the John Forest National Park, we heard this god-awful screech, and then this giant bat-like thing comes flying straight over the top of us at 8 feet tall with glowing red eyes, and you go, yeah, that thing could pick me up and take me places.
I've got boomsticks for a reason.
But then you go along the lines of infrasound, right? So there's been reports of, for example, Bigfoot using infrasound to paralyze people to stop them following him. So would he have the same sort of possibility?
I don't know, because a screech is generally at the higher end of the frequency range. Infrasound is at the lower end.
Yeah, well, that's usually what bats do for echolocation.
Yeah, but infrasounds, when you go into a film and you watch a horror film and you find yourself on edge and freaking out about something without understanding what's going on, because there's nothing really scary happening. What it is they're using infrasound to build that sense of dread. You can't even barely hear it, but your body picks up on it. And even some paranormal cases, they've actually attributed to like old warehouses and things like that. Some of the machinery in there creates infrasound, which does build that, put the hackles up on you and things like that. So it's funny how much sound can have an influence on a person's perception.
Well, it's like you watch a scary movie on mute playing Benny Hill's theme song till it becomes a comedy.
Yeah.
But so with obviously having looked through the Mothman, there's also been people in a large group of people that have attributed the Mothman to being the Scottish Banshee.
Well, the screech. I mean, the Banshee is originally Irish, but
Which?
the yeah. Well, they say if you hear the screech of a banshee, it means you're going to die.
Yeah, so the legend of the Banshee of Ireland and Scotland is a mythical spirit often said to have glowing red eyes. The Banshee warns all of those who see it impending death. Interestingly enough, West Virginia was largely settled by Scottish and Irish immigrants.
It does sound very similar, doesn't it, when you put it like that? Especially when you look at the ancestry of the people that lived there.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is, the Mothman could possibly be the Banshee of Ireland and Scotland.
It's very possible. I mean, it doesn't mean it is a banshee, and then we've started to call it a Mothman. It's the same creature. It's just whatever it gets called at any particular place or any particular point in time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's until we understand what it is, we don't know any different.
Would it be the Banshee that knows how to fly a hang glider?
Well, hang gliders, yeah. Not back in those old days. They didn't have hang gliders back then. I mean, have you ever watched those competitions where the idiots...
Birdman competitions?
Yeah. And they try... People even now can't create something. They go off the edge of the pier and they do a nosedive straight into the water.
Red Bull do it.
Yeah. And you go...
Didn't they used to do it in WA up in Hillary's before as well?
Oh, they did it a couple of... No, that was the milk carton one, yeah. No, that was just as bad, though. Everybody discovers that sticky tape isn't waterproof. But yeah, the Mothman.
So there you go as well, James. Just to add to your whole, how does it get around? If it is to do with the Banshee, it says that she is normally invisible and foretells death in her clan by lamenting in the night at a waterfall, stream, or loch in a glen on a mountainside. It's no invisibility.
You got the river right near it, and the bridge collapsed.
So this is the next thing, right? Everybody's talking. They call it the Mothman, and if you're basing it on the Banshee is generally thought of as a female of whatever species it is. So they
should we call him Moth Person?
Yeah, but I mean, back when the name was coined, sexual equality and this political correctness wasn't a thing back then, you know.
Neutral moth.
Jay was breaking up then. I don't know what he said, but
Gender neutral moth.
Yeah, see, that doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? But funnily enough, one of the big things that they were saying is around about that time is when one of those first Batman TV shows came out, and they reckon, there's the Batman, so this is the Mothman, and that's where almost superhero type. You know,
Marvel,
some of
DC.
those first descriptions. Well, he's DC, wasn't he? But some of those first descriptions of the Mothman, especially that those two couples that were in that car that ended up getting chased by it, they looked at him like he was a cloaked figure on the side of the road with glowing red eyes until he unfurled the cloak and it turned out it was just folded up wings. And that
Like a bat.
very similar, I mean, okay, you got to take the red eyes out of it, but that's very similar to the Hat Man and things like that, you know, tall and this usually in a long coat of sorts. So is it part spectral? Even though it's killed a dog, so it can definitely come into our plane and it can definitely interact in the physical. But is there a spectral side to it as well, which again could go to James's thoughts on how he gets around?
Well, just touching on the Banshee again, sorry, Gary. So you're saying about the females of the Banshee, typically females. So the ban in Banshee, or the bean in Banshee means woman. However, there are also Fershies, or Fearshies, which is the male counterpart to the Banshee.
Feces.
Fearshies, not poo-poos.
Yes.
Carl was
Yes,
just saying that Serpentine Falls is a very powerful energy
is
location. Yes, it is, and a lot of that's to do with again, when there's running water and things, especially waterfalls,
The
it
energy.
creates a lot of kinetic energy, and it's
Well,
a lot
you
of
have to look
Aboriginal,
at,
a lot of
activity is usually you get more activity around bodies of water or running water.
mm-hmm.
So it could be spectral.
Yeah. No, so it's worth it. I've actually thought about going out there and doing an investigation out there, because you could have, it's a water hole, so you could have cryptids coming in for a drink, as well as, I don't know what paranormal stuff there, but I know the local Aboriginal people regard it very highly as well. So, you know, we've been out Serpentine Way, we've done Jarrahdale, so maybe it's worth checking out at some point.
Well, it is believed that more than a dozen people have died at Serpentine Falls over the last 40 years.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Suicides and stuff.
Yeah,
Yep. Mainly result is jumping from a ledge in about 15 meters above the water.
I've seen people jump off that ledge.
I've jumped off that ledge.
I've jumped off it.
So, I wasn't that stupid, but I watched people that were. Jeremy.
What?
I was just referring to people that were stupid enough to do it.
Stupid
bad.
enough? Or fun enough?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you go
that's
back
the one
to yeah, if you go back to what Jeremy was saying, there are other instances where things have a male-female gender. For example, you got your succubus and your incubus.
Yep.
So,
The incubus is the
banshee, what was your
male.
other one?
Feces.
Yeah, that one. So it could be that they do have male and females of this Mothman, because it can't be one or two.
Carl said it's his
or
missus
could
about the
that be
broom.
hermaphrodite?
His missus almost said broom.
I
Could
fell
that
off
be
that room.
hermaphrodite? Like worms and things, they're all hermaphrodite.
Yeah.
I don't even think
Oh, so
hermaphrodite is
but-
the word in someone that's just asexual.
No. But there is people going, you know, there's Mothman and Mothwoman.
Then, and how many movies have they made out of this? You know, even Jeepers Creepers is loosely based on
Yeah.
Mothman as well, right?
I don't know. I've never actually watched that.
Who's to say that?
Yeah, obviously, well,
Sorry,
You know,
Jeremy.
But you look at Batman as well, though, because
Yeah.
I know it's a comic, but they've kind of DC kind of coined in on it as well, going like Batman. Read about the most bizarre criminal Batman I've ever encountered in the origin of the Killer Moth. Like, so they've made money off this as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just crazy how many people actually make money off of these things.
Yeah.
Mark's been quiet for a bit. Fact or fake is the last thing he said. Yeah, that's the show. But he does pop up in other shows as well. But yeah, that's a good one to check out. Like I said, Ben Hansen, who's an ex-FBI agent, he's almost like the Mulder. And he got into this, I suppose you could call them like X-Files and things like that, which led him into what he does now. And he's big time in the UFO stuff and whatever at the moment. But I speak to him 2 or 3 times a year, I guess. And we're just trying to tee it up to get the timing right with one of his shows and these his publicity people to get him on for the show and do an interview with him. And he's keen. He's just waiting for the okay. So, and he can tell you all sorts
Actually
about the
started.
shows. Excuse me?
I've actually started watching another show on Foxtel called The Proof Is Out There.
Yep.
And that's another one like fact or fake where they try and debunk things as well as, you know, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm friends with a couple of people from Fact or Fate, so JL Pardue and Ben. But that was a long time ago. Now JL, she went on to do several different shows, and of course Ben has as well. And this is what happens with a lot of these shows. They like a big one was Paranormal State. They've gone off in so many, Katrina and Heather, obviously. Forget all their names now, but there was Sergey. There was a few of the others. They all went off in different directions.
Sorry. But I'm just going to pull back to the Mothman for a quick second. So we talk about he/she turns up at prior to events that are catastrophic.
Yeah.
Like, how big does a catastrophe have to be? So the Silver Lake Bridge, that collapsed, right?
46 people died.
People?
46 people died.
Right. How many people died in the trade towers? Thousands.
3,000 and something.
Yeah. How many people died in the Japan tsunami, all that stuff? So
thousands.
Yeah. So, what at what stage, and the mine, how many people would have been at the mine? Probably 20, 30. Was there any more than that? So
would have been more than that. Yeah.
So
I actually don't know how many people died at Chernobyl. I don't have a figure on that because they knew it was going to blow, so they were able to get everybody out in time. But I don't know, workers-wise, if anybody actually died as a direct result of the meltdown.
30 operators and firemen.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And what about the people that lived around the area from the fallout over the years?
So my point was at what point does Mothman choose to appear? Like, there's obviously been other catastrophes that have happened that haven't necessarily he's been around to predict or warn, or is it just that nobody's reported on that because they've all passed from the yeah?
Who knows?
So does he have some sort of precognition, psychic ability to predict what's happening?
I don't know.
Like
I don't know.
To say he's fucking his mouth.
No, I'm thinking, because now you have got me thinking, like, what constitutes him to be there? Like,
Yeah.
It might not be a body count. It might just be some sort of who's to know. See, automatically being human, we look straight to body count.
Yep.
Now, he is obviously not human. He might not be drawn to it based on human body count. It could be more environmental. Now, you look, when the Silver Bridge collapsed, there would have been a hell of a lot of vibration in the earth when that thing went down.
Yeah.
You look at the World Trade Centers when they went down, there would have been a hell of a lot of vibration in the ground then. You look at Fukushima, the only one that I'm not sure about in relation to like vibration and stuff would be Chernobyl, because that was a meltdown opposed to something sort of more explosive, and then you got the earthquakes and things like that. So it might not be anything to do with human body counts or anything like that. It could be all to do with damage to the earth, or at least some sort of a because human arrogance always thinks it's about us, and that is by far not
But if
the
he's
case.
seen prior to the disaster,
Yeah.
is there any vibration in the earth prior to that? Like, what's he picking up?
Well, you look at
What is he picking up on to, appear?
Yeah, but you look at dogs. They say dogs, cats, and different animals can sense when an earthquake is coming.
Yeah.
Same with horses.
Maybe he could feel the vibrations as the bridge was starting to slowly crumble or something. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm just throwing out a few possibilities that most people don't think of, because everybody automatically goes to the human thing,
element.
and you've got to think way beyond that, and that's when you can get into some of these areas where you might be getting closer to the truth. I mean, we don't know. We could be far from it. We could be almost spot on, but you have to delve out there. Now, again, getting off topic just for a quick one, everybody talks about alien life, and they say there are so many Goldilocks planets out there where they're the right distance from their sun, that they've got the things there so they can have water which can support life and stuff like that. So life can exist in those things. Only human arrogance would say that, yeah, you're assuming all life is exactly the same as we are. We're just carbon-based animals.
Yep.
So they're judging these Goldilocks planets based on being carbon-based. But what's not to say that there aren't energy-based things. There's many different sorts of life. I mean, you look at all the different sorts of life there are just on this planet, and there's still new species being found every day. There's lots going extinct every day as well. But you throw that out into the universe, and we just don't have any clue. You know, yes, there will be other carbon-based life as we know it, but I can guarantee you there's going to be a multitude more types of life out there that we have no idea of. Yeah. And that then comes back to the Mothman. He could just be another form of life that is natural to Earth, but we don't understand it. And maybe he is more in tune with the Earth when these things happen, and that's why he comes out when he does.
And in saying that too, is he in tune with the Earth enough that he's not a harbinger of death? He's actually a warner. He's warning us. So what we're doing is wrong. What's going to happen if we keep going is things are going to be catastrophic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what the Germans believe.
Mm. Now, based on what we've been talking about, right, with the Mothman, and knowing the history about when he shows up, shit goes down. What would you do if you came around a corner and there was 10 of them?
I'd hope for a giant mothball. Big.
The big what?
Mothball.
Give him my wallet and run.
But okay, go. Everybody here knows the show Supernatural, right? The Winchesters and this, that, and the other. Now they go on about the Reapers and how the Reapers are drawn to death, so they turn up to carry the souls and, you know, whatever they're going to do. And there was one episode where they came into town and there was literally hundreds or thousands of these Reapers around. Up until now, the Mothman has only been seen in the singular by himself.
Mm.
So if he suddenly started showing up and there was 5 or 6 of them or 10 of them or more, how big a thing do you expect is going to happen?
I'm going to kiss my butt goodbye.
Yeah.
Making a few phone calls.
I think Carl, a
big can of bug spray.
I was just trying to find previous as well, the last known sightings of the Mothman.
2017 was the latest that I'd seen.
2016 is what I found.
Oh.
And guess where it was?
Where?
West Virginia.
Oh, back there again.
There was actually 2 photos that were taken as well that had been passed out, and this thing looks like a frog with wings.
Yeah, that
like
is one way to describe it.
Stretched out frog's legs with wings. That's what it looks like. But it looks absolutely huge compared to the trees.
Mm.
Also, we have to take into account West Virginia. There are a lot of people making moonshine.
Look, they've actually got photos captured.
Mm-hmm. And on that, I think we are about out of time. We're going to call it. We've gone over our hour, as we usually do.
I think that's just normal now, so we should just allow the hour and a half.
Nah. Anyway, I think it is time. So it's been a quiet one in the chat, and
fairly quiet. We've had a steady 6 to 7 viewers. I'm happy.
One day we will get more.
We'll get 10 one day.
We can only hope. 10 people that like the crap we talk about. So, anyway, we have another show coming out next Tuesday. So, all tune in and watch that. Like it, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel because it does help us out. We are trying to build our subscribers, and a little bit of news. We will be doing a Halloween special. So get
Yes.
tuned and ready for that one. It's going to be a good one. We have a special guest coming in for that, and he has a lot of information on the topic that we are going to be talking about, and he's actually got personal experience of going to some of these locations, so it's going to be epic. And see you guys later. Have a good weekend, everybody. Don't get too sunburnt, and we will see you all next week.
See you later.
See ya.